On this episode of Thank You for Sharing, we welcome Hunter Weiss. Hunter and his media machine Weiss Marketing have made tremendous impacts on the social media landscape. Hunter has garnered over 800 million views and has seemingly cracked the code to virality. Playing on screen now is a quick sample set of the animation style Hunter and his team are famous for. You may have even seen this style floating around your own feed. Before we dive in, if you'd like to support this series, consider leaving a like on this video. It really helps. Now, let's get into the back and forth conversation between Ty and Hunter.
I'm the brain behind like Danco blowing up and just taking people's audio and turning it into the goal of like viral animation.
Yeah.
And using psychology, direct response, trying to create something that impacts people in 15, 20, 30, 1 seconds, 1 minute.
Creativity is a muscle. Fuel your mind with reading, train your mind with writing, use ideas as your clay, use execution as your chisel. With time, create a sculpture worth mentioning in the future's history books.
For a short form video.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we've done close to 800 million views.
Yeah.
One video for Danco got 40 million views, and it's
where do you think the virality component comes in? Like, why do you think 40 million views is deserved on a black and white animation?
So I can break down why that video I think went very viral. We made the pacing's a bit quick. So the text is on the top and the bottom, and it splits in people's mind. It's hard to follow, but the message is very powerful.
Yeah.
And then the animation is very good. Yeah. So you're trying to follow all these things, and you can't really, and your brain needs to watch it multiple times. And then by watching it multiple times, the engagement rate is super high, the watch time's high. And then the comments are triggering and like commenting, this is important, or they're sharing with their friends, like it's a great video. But then each person is rewatching it, so the watch time is high.
That's interesting. There's a point that I want to touch on. You're mentioning there are multiple like eyeball focal points in your videos. I find in my videos, when I'm editing, I like to keep it simple with like a singular focal point so that I can like laser pinpoint the viewer's attention. But you seem to take the route of like, give them options so that they can watch one option, one go, and then the other option the next.
It's multi-sensory, and around like 75% of the world it's like Myers-Briggs. They're sensing versus intuition. So you have a massive population group that is going to react to eyes, ears, smell, taste, like feel. But with social media, you really have eyes, what they're watching, what they're hearing, and what you're making them feel.
Yeah.
And with animation, like when you have text on the screen, audio, sound effects, visual, tons of movement.
If you win enough days, you win the week. If you win enough weeks, you win the month. If you win enough months, you win the year. And if you win enough years, you win life. And it's that simple, all right? There's no magic outside of that.
You're taking the brain on this huge loop, and you're taking something that might be 30 seconds, and in the mind, it's making them feel like it's 5 seconds.
Right.
And they're getting lost in it.
Right.
And then they're like, whoa, that was beneficial. I need to send it to my friends. I need to comment, and I want to watch it again. Yeah. I want to save it. I was looking at one of the videos that went viral right now, has 5.5 million views, has 200,000 saves.
Right.
Has 200,000 saves and 450,000 likes.
Yeah.
Which means half the people that watch it save it.
Yep. And why do you think that this type of message delivery is so potent? Are you kind of like needle in a haystack type thing? Like, why are people craving the need to save a video with this type of messaging when this messaging is available? I
think we're just all overstimulated. Even though this is like a very stimulating format, it's very bland.
Yeah.
It's boring. It's boring. It's not boring. It's minimal. Like you can't really get distracted or lost. It's just like, okay, you watch it. First, like if you're on a podcast with like 5 people and they're cutting between 5 people, your brain's like, what's going on?
Right.
Versus on animation, you open it up and you see, okay, the text, the video. You're a visual learner. You can follow along. You can learn from what someone's talking about.
Right.
And then it just restarts.
Right.
And then if you liked it, you'll watch it again.
Yeah. I was mentioning that your animations are quite literally just visual translations of the words being said.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So they help facilitate the words. So it's like multi-layered facilitation of a strong message. And then I guess where I come in on that is like I add another layer.
Yeah, you've done a great job with it too.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
The Ikigai, Roberto's video, you took his video that did great and you made it do better.
There's an ancient Japanese concept called Ikigai, which is the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. And the Japanese believe that leading a life at the center of these four qualities gives a person a sense of purpose and a reason for living. When you know your Ikigai and understand its meaning, you're aligned with the work you've longed to do and the work the world needs you to do. There's an ancient Japanese concept called Ikigai, which is the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. And the Japanese believe that leading a life at the center of these four qualities gives a person a sense of purpose and a reason for living. When you know your Ikigai and understand its meaning, you're aligned with the work you've longed to do and the work the world needs you to do.
But you also put this incredible storyline behind it that made you, whoa, this animation's cool. And now there's a story behind the animation.
Right.
It brought it to life another way. You pioneered the whole new style of like putting the image, actual real life footage behind the animation.
Right. Yeah. And I remember actually I messaged you. I was like, yo, I'm thinking about doing the Ikigai video. And you're like, go ahead. I love the little like conversations that we've had across the time sphere, just because like it's so cool to go back and like timestamp like our successes and all of that stuff.
Well,
it's
it's like this game is a wave, and people don't realize like social media, you could have the best month of your life, and then you could have 3 months that are bad.
Yeah.
Just because
that's what I'm experiencing right now.
Yeah, if something that's really good, you're gonna have like a high. It's a dopamine high, or you feel really good, like, oh, you're winning. You've won the game. But you feel like you've won the game and it's infinite, but you've only won the game during that segment, and then you're like, the whole thing is, how do you repeat it? How do you do it again? What's the formula? Is there a formula? Can you actually create something multiple times that gets millions of views, or are you one-hit wonder? And like the one-hit wonder feeling can bring on imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And like a lot of people like will have this big moment and then they're like, they can't get it back again, and they can be depressed.
Absolutely.
Like I had a video go mega viral during COVID, and then didn't have like virality for a while after there. And I was like always comparing everything to that video.
Totally.
It messed me up. Like the president retweeted at the time. Like it went huge on Twitter. It's how I got to New York today.
And I'm sure you accrued a lot of followers for that one video, right? And then to a certain degree, you feel kind of pigeonholed into.
You think that's like the only thing you have to like repeat it, and then you're like trying to cater to an algorithm.
And in all honesty, that's quite true. Like you actually are pigeonholed to a certain degree. I've gone viral on TikTok for a certain type of video that's not related to my content, and I cannot to this day break out of that pigeonholed content, which sucks. And I think that that's a downside to the way that social media works right now. If you go viral off something that's not what you're good at, you accrue a following that follows you for that.
It can be a trap, and like we're seeing this, like people will do really dumb things for clout on social media, and it's like you get that once, and you get a taste of it, and now you want it again, and it's like, are you gonna look back in 10 years and regret the things you put out for clout that are on the internet forever for short-term gratification, or like for short-term? I mean, I don't know. I don't like TikTok, to be honest. I don't really use it. I don't really have it on my phone. I download it sometimes to post something and delete it. I'm gonna have to start using it more in the future.
Does Weiss Marketing do well on TikTok?
Dude, I haven't checked in like a week. I just re-downloaded it a couple weeks ago. I started putting videos up there. I mean, Instagram done like 10 million impressions the last 31 days. It's like blowing up. Just like they say like focus on one platform where you're having the most success.
Totally.
I believe that's true. I believe like when you're also like focused on one platform that is working for you and you're consistent, it rewards you.
Absolutely.
Because they see like the algorithms like constantly knows you're gonna post. People follow you, know that you're gonna post.
Yeah.
Then it like spreads to more people that way.
Absolutely. I agree.
But what I'm seeing too on Instagram now is like our videos are getting published to Facebook Reels organically. I didn't know that it does that.
Yeah.
I turned that setting on, and like some of the videos are getting 20, 30, 50,000 views on Facebook.
Really?
It'll say like your videos like up 1,000% up than the other on Facebook. It's interesting.
That is very interesting.
In the future though, like I want to make a huge focus on YouTube, because I believe that's where you build real community and long-term fans.
I agree.
It's
how do you see yourself doing that with Weiss Marketing? Like how are you going to build a community around black and white?
Oh, I think it'll pivot more to lifestyle and like documentary.
Of you.
More personality. Like I'm just really focused right now fully on the business and my clients and like delivering the best. Really pivoting to B2B right now. Like every week's different meetings with bigger companies. And like that's where my brain is set on. And I feel like everything that I've like set my mind to in this space is like evolved bigger.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of cliche, but like what you think about and like what you're constantly focused on is like what you end up attracting and like where you end up ultimately going.
Chapter 2. Social media, the good and the bad.
I just wanted to comment, like, me myself included, but you're surrounded by all of these like great thought leaders, and like you make content with very strong messaging, and like it's so funny because it's inevitably rubbing off on you. And like
it's programming me.
It's programming me too. It's so funny. It's really solid programming.
That's like the whole thing is like
it's great. It's a great atmosphere to be in.
It's like pushing good content to people that's beneficial in their life versus like all this like shitty, like unbeneficial, toxic. I mean, a lot of social media, what goes viral is often like very toxic.
Yes.
Like
controversy sells.
Yeah. Well, that gets clicks, shares, and pisses people off. So the thing, like virality is, you can manufacture negative virality
quite easily.
Very easily. It's way harder to manufacture positive virality.
Totally, bro. And it's so much more satisfying when you nail that positive virality. Like the Ikigai video, it's only positive. Like that, the messaging is so positive and beneficial to people. And I'm sure you may have gotten like positive feedback on that video. And it's so satisfying to push something like to push something healthy out into the world.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of my mission personally.
Well, the world needs that. More than anything, I feel like it's just you. How often you come across something on social media that you wish you didn't see, like something that you saw. It's like the algorithms are forced consumption. They're trying to find out what you like. So it's like how often you come across something that you genuinely were like, damn, I wish I did not have to see that.
Yes.
Like that's my problem with Twitter. Is it's like some of the stuff that's pushed on Twitter is like live leak. Like no one should be scrolling and see someone on fire. Or like something really, like that's what's happening though, is they know on all these platforms, that's how you get clicks, shares, engagement.
Yeah.
And it's like probably programmed into the algorithm to like push that content more.
Well, it is because biologically speaking, we're wired to be attracted to danger for the sake of survival. Like you would want to look at something, that's dangerous for a longer period of time to assess whether or not there's like a danger element to it. So, you know, the algorithm preys on our biological interworkings and in many facets, right? Like, I lost my train of thought, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like it preys on our lizard brain.
Yeah, I mean, it's so psychological, anger, fear, shame. I mean, it feels like the world has no shame right now, some of the stuff I see, but I mean, anger is like raises cortisol. So like from a psychological standpoint, things that make us angry or fearful are what are gonna make us act emotionally.
Right. You mentioned that, you know, the world is so shameless right now. Do you feel as though like the Twitter representation of the world, Instagram representation of the world is like just holistically not an accurate representation? Because I find that what I see,
are trying to make like Americans look like idiots.
Okay.
Like for the rest of the world. Like if China has TikTok that's for education,
fair.
We have TikTok to look like idiots.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that 4th of July, you see kids like blowing themselves up with fireworks for a week on Instagram because they know that's getting views and shares and likes. And it's like to the rest of the world, like what's going on in America?
Yes.
Like we don't see what's going on in China.
Right.
Unless it's like propaganda pushed to us, right? Like you don't really see anything outside of our bubbles.
Right.
But then it's like depending on how your algorithm is, if you've trained it, like my YouTube Shorts algorithm, I've found out you can train the algorithm just by searching whatever topic you want to learn about plus shorts and then start watching those. It's the most malleable algorithm out there. Where you can watch like 20 videos about a topic and your whole algorithm is going to change.
Interesting.
Versus Instagram knows you so well from years of data.
It's so hard to break.
Instagram, you can't really it literally has your probably entire search and view history since the day you made Instagram.
Which is so scary, man.
Pushing to an algorithm.
It's so scary because it only pushes what you want to see.
Chapter 3. Echo Chambers.
You know, we get into the whole fallacy of like the echo chamber type stuff, and it's like I truly believe it's like such a big problem, and people, it's so hard to realize that it's a problem because when you're in the echo chamber, you can't, like that's the whole point, is like that's the only thing you know.
Yeah.
So it's so difficult to
that's what I hate about like modern day politics. I don't really want to get into it, but it's like everything's just an echo chamber on left and right. Like there's nothing new, there's nothing old, it's just all new, like how do we bash the other side?
Yes.
There's no, it's like that's what the biggest problem is in America, is because they've created like political echo chambers that get people riled up and create controversy at the cost of like no benefit to society.
Yes, that's an interesting topic. I feel like, and I'm sure you can relate, I get 100% conservative media. Like, I never get fed liberal.
Dude,
anything.
I'm getting fed like everything these days.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. So my point is, like, I'm just wondering, like, I'm essentially living in an alternate reality in the digital space. I'm only seeing the conservative side of things. And I'm sure that there are people living in an alternate reality of only seeing the left side.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's such a, the social age has created like people living in multiple different dimensions. It's like, it's
I
weird.
worry is like how many people are like generating and creating their beliefs just off like one video they saw and now they're like brainwashed to believe it. Like for me, like I've been watching and following like a lot of what RFK has to say because I think he just doesn't, he's controversial while being himself.
Yes.
He's creating controversy by just saying whatever he wants to say.
Yeah.
And also, like, I listened to Rogan, and I like Rogan. I've listened to tons of Rogan episodes. And
Yep.
I mean, I like people I like in thought leaders that are crushing it. Like Dana White has rejected every of like the norm of a media company.
Yeah, he's sick.
And Andy Frisella, like both these guys don't give a shit. They're pushing their own message. They're not worried about being controlled by someone. And they're really pushing against like the mainstream, which triggers a lot of people and makes them more powerful, which you can see that like, these people who rise to fame, they trigger one side and one side loves them.
Yes.
Like on both sides of politics.
Yeah.
Whatever side you take, if you can trigger the other side and with anything.
Do you think it was always like that?
Social media amplified it. How do we like, before no one could be a thought leader without the media. Before phones.
Is that true?
I mean,
'Cause,
you have to have a radio broadcast or what, be on the news?
Yeah, so what you're claiming, and I kind of agree, is that like the notion of a thought leader is a fairly new concept.
I mean, there's like, Liver King was a thought leader until like he got exposed, right? Like everyone viewed him as like, oh, this is a most insane human. I need to buy a supplement. Like, well, that's the thing with social media is you're being manipulated.
Yes, you are.
At the cost of buying something. So like the world are consumers. 99% of the world consumes, 1% creates is like the quote.
Yeah.
So when you're on social media, if you're only there to watch things, you're the consumer and eventually like they're gonna try and sell you something.
Yeah.
Or maybe you won't buy anything, but I know a lot of people that buy everything off social media.
Do you think there's a way to go about that in an authentic way? Like, yes, end goal is sale, but do you think there is a way to be a thought leader whilst being like authentic? You know what I mean?
Chapter 4. Artistry. Creating more than you consume.
True painters that don't give a shit and just like sit down and paint a beautiful art piece and hope their followers buy it to put on their wall is like the purest form of monetization, because you're sitting there with the expectation of like just making cool art to share with your friends or share with your social media and hoping that someone will buy your art so you could pay rent.
Yeah.
Which isn't like, they're not forcing you, but they're trying to bring like something potentially beautiful or chaotic into the world from their mind. And their only way to live, like that's the truest form of artistry is like, you don't know when you're gonna pay your next month's rent or paycheck or like you buy food until you sell art.
Yeah.
Because you're so lost in that creation process.
Right. That's an interesting point I wanted to touch on. I find for myself personally, I would consider myself an artist. I'm sure you would too. Do you think that you perform better in your artistry whilst having an income and whilst being financially secure and creating from a point of comfortability? Or do you think like artists necessarily thrive when they're fighting for their lives? Like, do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Because I've been in both situations. And I think I prefer having a financial income so that I can create when I want to create, as opposed to creating to pay my rent.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Like, where do you think the true artistry lies?
I think some of like my greatest work has been made on both sides, like having no money. I think when I was working for the NFL, wasn't making much money until I had freelance jobs. Like the first or second video I did the NFL got 1 million views in 24 hours, and I loved that video. I wasn't making much money.
Yeah.
I mean, I was making $30 an hour. People think that was a lot, but like living in LA, $30 an hour to sit and edit all day. There's kids freelancing outside for $200. They're getting $1,000 a day to do a shoot.
Yeah.
To run around social media and film videos. I was always like, but I enjoyed like getting better at it. And like the virality is a drug. But
it is a drug.
I try not to view things around like virality anymore. Like I don't want to guarantee virality to clients or customers. If you could guarantee every video to go viral, you could be charging $1 million video or whatever. Set your rate. They'll call 1 million people or 1,000 people.
Yeah.
There's definitely a different mindset, like creating when you're struggling versus creating when you're comfortable.
Totally. Which do you prefer, just off the bat?
I like this being having steady income and knowing that you can take more risk is really good for creating things.
Yeah.
And pushing your boundaries. But like for me, like I like so many different mediums of creation. Like, this painting is on the wall right there. Like I'll come in here and on a Saturday or Sunday blast music and just make art. Like that collage over there, I saw 25 books in the lobby downstairs. Took them like, tore out all the pages, laid them out on the ground, and for 5 hours, like cut with scissors and made that. So for me, it's like.
Where do you think that comes from? What part of you is?
My dad's like more entrepreneurial. My mom's an artist. I feel like.
Okay, sure, but more. Where does that? What is it that inclines you to go and do that collage? Like, what are you trying to accomplish by doing that, or what are you trying to get out of yourself?
I think it's almost like a state of nothing, just like flow, like not. It's like the enjoyment of making things and like watching something go from nothing to something.
Right.
Like a blank canvas is nothing, and you put something on it, and then like now it's in here, and I'm like, they're kind of cool. Like they're just tape art, but like I enjoy looking at it. And, like these white walls had nothing on. Like they need to have art on it.
Totally.
Like that photo I took in Arizona is a dual exposure. I sat in the desert for 6 hours one night on a Thursday or Friday night, just watching the stars, trying to learn how to do long exposure star shots.
Yeah.
So like I put it on a tripod and like took one at sunset, took one at night, overlaid it. And just, you know, for me, it's just like capturing a moment, like with a photo over the ocean. It's a nice photo to look at. The contrast. For me, like I look at that, I'm like, I like the contrast of like the green and the blue with split.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I fucking love it. Like, I love the glossy finish on it too. Yeah. Really brings it together. Makes it art.
But everyone's fighting, like nowadays everyone's trying to fight this algorithm. Like I started on Vine. I didn't give a shit. Like I just made videos with a drone and they started all going viral. Like I had 6 seconds to get people's attention and like, okay, I got 10 million views when I was 14 on one drone video. So then in your mind, you're like, people like that, you're gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
And then it evolves.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, you film a drone video and the whole world sees it.
Yep. Do you relate to I'm sure you've heard this terminology, create more than you consume?
Yeah.
Like, do you relate to that? That's actually kind of what I was trying to tie into what I was asking you before, as I feel like your innate desire to create that collage or do this long double exposure is, for me at least, I need to create in order to like dump the stuff that's in my head. And if I consume too much without putting out into the world, like it kind of gets overloaded. And I think create more than you consume is like such a guiding star in my life. And I think that like, I can infer that's probably why you do some of the things that you do, is to kind of cycle out the things in your head and get it out into the world.
I think too, I have extreme ADHD. If I'm not doing things I don't like, I'm gonna move on to something else. And like building and creating, it's like channeling ADHD. Like making a video is ADHD channel because you're sitting there and cutting clips. Totally. It's so stimulating.
Yep.
You're putting all these things together and you're playing Tetris with video and you're hoping the video, you're posting it with like, you either don't care or like you kind of probably care a little bit, like I hope this does well, but if it doesn't, whatever, I'll make the next.
Yeah.
So you're playing this mind game with yourself, which is fun. And it's like create more than you consume is it in the whole thing. Like you're trying to create something and just put it out there to get better or for like channeling your energy.
Yes.
Like I love to run a lot, but I can't run 14 hours a day and do anything else. Like that's unhealthy. But I can sit and edit a video for 6 hours, then go on a run, then come home and edit more.
Yes.
And my brain is so locked in and focused.
Yes.
Which is like, I'd way rather do that than take Adderall every day and sit in like a 9-to-5 corporate job, hating my life, like doing Excel spreadsheets.
Absolutely. I think that
was also like a driving force since I was a kid. Like I never wanted to work corporate life.
Yeah.
I wanted to like figure out how to make money as an artist.
That's
like,
awesome.
Where does it go?
Chapter 5, Entrepreneurship versus Art.
Be an entrepreneur and an artist combined. Because that's like a deadly combination. Because you can bring things to life as an artist and you can monetize it as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. That, I mean, what you just said there like gets me super giddy because that's exactly, I'm trying to be an entrepreneur artist. I've got the artist side down and you totally do too. And now it sounds like you're really beefing up on the business side. I'm a little bit behind in relation to where you are. But I think when you have that combination, you become so deadly. And I think you need the combination of both. You cannot just be an artist without the business side, and you can't just be a businessman without the artist side. You can, but you can't be successful to any sort of notable degree. I think it's the combination of both that makes people super potent. Like Casey Neistat, I'm sure he's A++.
Dude, he has an agent too, and I don't think he likes he just wants he wants to make videos.
Yeah.
Like, I talk to him, like, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to make videos.
Casey.
Like, I'm sure he wants to do other things, but like the core is he just loves to make YouTube videos.
But
his movies. Like,
absolutely. But in order for him to rise to success, I'm sure at some point in his career, he had to buckle in and buckle down on his business aspect in order to get his art.
I think too, though, is he got really lucky. He started in a time, he didn't get lucky. He worked his ass off, but he was in a time where YouTube AdSense paid a lot of money.
Right.
Where views actually made millions of dollars if you were getting millions of views. There's that viral clip of him talking, like the first time he missed out on the monetization from 100 million views.
I saw that.
If you calculate that like a CPM rate, he probably missed out on a few $1,000,000.
Yeah.
But like then he turned it on and he starts talking about how every month he just got this check for making videos. So like YouTube is, and TikTok, like the purest form of, if you can monetize this off what you make, okay, so you're growing a following, you're getting a check every month for making videos. And then now you can start to figure out where you want to focus on brand deals or where you want to focus on building a company, or maybe you want to make videos the rest of your life. You have to figure out how to make money off those videos for the rest of your life. I think a lot of people that make videos for other people at their core, they're like, all I want to do is make videos for myself. But then other people don't.
True.
Like there's the mix. Like you sacrifice a few years and then you can make videos forever.
Yep.
You sacrifice a few years working with clients while building a brand and like getting endless connections, which is kind of how I'm doing it right now.
I think you're doing it perfectly, and I think I'm gonna follow suit in some capacity. Like, we'll be in contact.
Yeah.
Like I need to pick your brain on how you're doing it.
Like I, growing up, have always had this like half like artist, creative mind, half entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And if I ever go too far to one side, I go like I get I can maybe like depressed or crazy or like mad or insane. I don't know how, like I feel off.
Yeah.
And that's like my equilibrium that I'm balancing. It's between artist and entrepreneurship.
And that's
so
such healthy. That's so healthy.
So it's like if I go too far on one side chasing money, then my art falls off that I don't want to do. If I go too far in art, then I don't care about money, and then like I'm worried about. Then I'm like constantly this teeter-totter. It's finding that balance that's in the middle. You're finding equilibrium.
Yeah, and it's that never-ending chase of equilibrium that keeps you moving forward. You're never gonna find it. Like you're never gonna be perfectly balanced because then you've achieved.
Well, and this whole like you need balance in life. To be honest, I don't think in your 20s you really should have balance if you want to like not play it safe.
No.
Like, the world is not getting any safer. The world's getting crazier.
Oh my God.
So like balance is like the balance. Like you need balance in building a business to focus and like maintain quality with your clients, with your product, whatever. But then there's also the imbalance of like from November to February working with Dan Coe. I think I slept 4 hours every single night for like 4 months straight, just like to get everything done, to manage it, to like try and hire, to like figure out how do I scale this. There was no balance. Like I was going insane, but like I was looking at these numbers like, holy shit, this is working. Like we're getting millions of views. Like his following count's going up 200,000, whatever, in a week. And for me, like that just fueled it. And I was like, okay, one day you'll have balance again, but right now there's no balance.
Totally.
And then when you get balance again, then you imbalance yourself somewhere else. So like, it could be like with relationships with like friends or family. It could be like dropping off the grid for a month because you just like accidentally got lost in your work.
Yeah, totally. It's the notion of like seasons of your life. I firmly believe, I really like the terminology seasons as well because I deeply relate to that. You go through like different seasons of your life. You know, the monk mode season. I don't know if have you ever done monk mode?
Dude, I used to be able to run a 3-hour marathon when I had when I was in the most healthy season. Now like I'm probably like a 3:30, 3:40.
Yeah.
It's like you change, your seasons change based on what you have to focus on.
Totally. And that's okay that you only run a 3:30 or 40 mile. Like
but it just shows like the priorities of like putting all my time into running had to pivot. Like you can't focus all your time into running and then want to focus all your time into a business.
Yes.
And that's like where I respect these entrepreneurs that have where I respect these entrepreneurs that have figured out is they get to a certain level where they've hired everyone to run their businesses, and then now they're making so much money that they just get to think the most creative ideas and decide if they want to build that.
Yes.
And then it's like your seasons shift.
Yes.
Jesse Itzler, you know who he is?
No.
He like founded NetJets and his wife founded Spanx. They're a billionaire couple, I'm pretty sure. He just hosts these like crazy fitness events now around the US, like run a mountain up and down the height of Everest.
Yeah.
And like he's very well off, has probably tons of investments, but he's at a point now where like his health and fitness is his number one priority, and building around that community and those companies he owns there.
Yes.
Yeah. But when he was probably in his 20s, it was all in imbalance.
Totally.
It was there. If you look back on a lot of people's 20s, I bet it was madness.
Yeah, and that's the fun part.
Yeah.
Because that's when you're most capable of handling the madness.
Yeah.
And I think you're actually doing your evolutionary biology a disservice by sitting on your ass in your 20s, if you are, you know.
There's a time for it. Some days you have to. Some days you don't want to do anything.
Of course,
And like,
of
I tell
course.
people, like, the days you don't want to do anything, at least go exercise.
Yeah, but I think I'm talking, and I think you can relate. We're speaking in seasons here. You know, like throughout the course of the season, you can take your rest, and you should take your rest. But in your 20s, you should be going through heavy seasons of fucking grind mode, for sure, in my opinion.
Sometimes it's going to feel like hell, and sometimes it's going to feel like the best thing ever.
And that's the beauty in life, dude.
Dude, I remember
Chapter 6. Understanding the creative landscape.
in LA when I was working during COVID, I had this client, and when COVID hit, they owed me like 3 months, and I had done all the work, and I had like $15,000 or $20,000 outstanding, and I had left the NFL, so like $20K that I was expected to get and save, and like I never showed up.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, you did this work, you didn't have like a signed contract, you did a board of like handshake deal, you had been paid months prior, and I just like kept sending an email every month, and then like I was like, dude, I have like the founder's email. I'm just gonna email him and be like, dude, I haven't got paid X, Y, and Z for these months, and like, that was eating at my mind, worried about like taking on other work because I was like, I need this money to live.
Yeah.
But then I was also thinking like I should just go find new clients. So I was like trying to find new clients, trying to get paid. Like,
Yeah.
that season, you're like, what am I gonna do?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I have like a couple months worth of rent, and like I'm in the bottom right now as a creative.
Yes.
Like, I need work. COVID's here. It's locked down. No one's hiring. Like, what do I do? Blah blah. And it's like, then you like problem solve. Like, I should have just emailed the CEO day one, and like, I get paid the next day. And I'm like, let's go. Like, I had
That's
like
hype.
3 months of worry, and looking back on it, you're like, if you ever have a problem getting paid, like, talk to the most important person in the company.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, I did X, Y, and Z. Here's what I'm owed. I need this money to live. Like, that's a big problem with creatives, is getting stepped on.
Yeah.
Like, not getting paid or for something they've done.
That's
And
interesting.
like not having a contract, especially young creatives. You don't realize, like, so many people will take advantage of you
Yes.
when you're young.
Yeah.
Just because they think that they like can step on you, or that you're not smart enough.
I think a big component is taking advantage of the young creatives, but I think also a big component is a complete misunderstanding of what goes into the creative process, especially from like a business-oriented mind. They have no comprehension of what it takes to be able to output the work that creatives do.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I've struggled with being able to explain myself and like the amount of time and effort and energy that goes into the work that I do.
And the years behind getting to the level you're at today.
Exactly. Just because I can do it in an hour doesn't mean you should pay me $15 an hour. Like it's,
No,
I can do it in an hour because I've been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like but it's such a contrast from how the business world works. Because the business is like hourly wage, salary.
It goes back to like creatives too, like not valuing themselves, and then just being so cheap with it that like they're now bringing the whole market down.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
So it's like, if you're a really good editor and you're charging $15 an hour, like now people are like, oh, I hired this guy.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
What are your thoughts on video as a whole moving into the AI landscape? Just with like AI
I'm
video.
convinced that AI will replace like emotion. We'll see. Or it can be emotional.
You're not convinced that it can replace what?
Like the emotional side. Like it still feels robotic. Like
Okay.
even the imagery that's came out of AI for the most part that I've seen hasn't overly impressed me.
Okay.
But I'm also not like a video game, cartoon, anime. Like that stuff does never interest me.
Right.
Like I've always been like I like some forms of motion. I honestly really love 3D, like Blender, like.
I love it too.
Yeah.
I love it too.
And I like CGI, but also like realism. Like National Geographic as a kid was like one of my favorite things to watch.
Same.
It's just like seeing the world through a different lens of every different environment. Like, this is real.
Yes.
This is cool. You're seeing like some lion in the Sahara, then a monkey, then you're seeing a shark,
Yeah.
and you're in South America or whatever. Like they're bringing you into whatever jungle scene setting.
Absolutely. What do you think about like, there's an influx of, or maybe you haven't noticed this, but maybe because I'm in that world a little bit, like there's an influx of AI generated content where we'll take this whole podcast, run it through an AI, it'll just fucking chop out what it thinks is the most important stuff, and then it'll just slap captions on and spit it out.
I'm all for efficiency, if it works.
Do you think that that would like saturate the market to a degree where it's like just flood the market with just C+ fucking content?
I guess like it doesn't matter because the algorithm will bring the original A+ thought leaders to the top, maybe. Like if anything, like if you're good at what you do and the platforms are being absolutely flooded with C content and you can make A+, there's no reason why you don't rise to the top.
Yep.
Like if anything, you want the market to be saturated with way worse quality so that the best stands out.
Totally. Yep.
Because then it's like you have no competition.
Right. Yeah. So I came across this statement where it's like if everyone can create video content, no one can create video content. So if everyone has the capacity to like create content, it all just kind of blends into a single level playing field.
Yeah. It blends into algorithmic watch time playing field.
Yeah. So in order to rise above that, you need to stand out and be.
Yeah. You have to engage someone to actually care about what you've posted. Because if they watch it for 1 second, if the first 1,000 people that come across on Instagram watch it for 1 second or 2 seconds, they're gone, the video's dead. But if the first 1,000 people watch half the video or 100% of the video, boom, you just stayed on their platform, they're pumping it.
Yeah.
Which is like now you're catering towards an algorithm versus like if you're just talking and being yourself, does your originality, like does this conversation we're having, who knows how, like I'm not worried about going viral, I'm not worried about anything. Like we're just here having a cool conversation. We've both like been inspired by each other's work. There could be clips in here that to someone, if clipped properly, could be like, well, that's really cool, and share it. But like we never sat down with the expectation to make anything other than have a conversation.
That's totally true.
Chapter 7, The Formula.
To that point though, do you ever find yourself when you're creating your work, does the algorithm infect your mind to a certain degree?
100%. I took one challenge I wanted to do the past couple of weeks is can I find already viral audio on Instagram and make it more viral with our video?
Oh yeah, with the visual hustle stuff?
Yeah, I did it twice. One video had 1 million views the first time around that we pulled the audio from. My video has 5.5 million.
Yeah.
It's like 5.5 million in 2 weeks. So that is like a sign of can I curate something that would, someone would hear it and agree with it. And basically, like, can I create virality and engagement? And we did it back to back, like on 2 different videos.
Amplification, would you say?
You're amplifying, but you have to be able to, can you curate and then amplify?
Yes. Dude, that's
curation is as hard as creation.
Oh, absolutely, bro. And that's where that artistic touch comes in. And I think that's where you and I both have that curation capacity. And I think that is so important. And that's what separates artists from good artists from not good artists.
No, I totally agree.
And that's actually, that's exactly how I would describe my come up with your Danco animations at first was curation. I was like, I saw this, I want to broadcast that to my followers, and I want to amplify this, and I want to increase the potency of it with however I can.
Yeah. The state of social media is basically stealing, iterating, copying, and being inspired. It's a formula of all these different things put together. There's very little true originality, and when there is, it does well, and then it gets copied by 1 million people. But at the same time, it's fine. Competition breeds really good results.
Yes, I coined this term in a podcast that I did a while back, piggyback art.
Yeah.
So or leapfrog art. You're basically you take an art piece, and if you're an artist, you kind of leapfrog over it. So you take components of what they have and you add your spice to it. And it keeps happening. Further and further down the road, more and more artists pick that up until it divulges into something completely different.
Yep.
And the potency of that end product, well, there is no end product, but the potency of that product is that much more impactful than that original one. And that's where it gets interesting, is because I mentioned that there is no end product and it keeps going. So I'm sure
mutating and
the artwork that I put out, the artwork that you put out are iterations of 2014 Instagram. It's a combination of all of our influences.
It's just it's new to us, but it's new to waves. Art just comes and goes and then comes back and then goes away. It's kind of like fashion, I feel like, in the way I see people wearing things that you're that looks like you're from the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
But then that comes into trend. Could be a pair of sunglasses that were cool 40 years ago, died out, now they're cool today.
Yeah, I think the most potent thing in fashion is the skinny jeans transition to baggy jeans.
Yeah.
Like that was such a, because I feel like we lived through both, where it's like skinny was cool.
It was cool, and then it wasn't cool, and it'll come cool again. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's too tight though.
History repeats
Like,
itself.
I understand the baggy jeans, or like the athletic pants now, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like clothing being baggy, like especially in New York, you see everything. Like you see shit you would never imagine. Like, what is that person wearing?
Yeah.
Chapter 8. The New Drug.
I don't know. I feel like the landscape of social though is just gonna keep evolving like really towards storytelling in short form, because the whole world is addicted to their phones.
Yes.
Which is also like the double-edged sword. At what point do people quit it or like not want to use them anymore? But dude, even people who don't post on social media are still viewing social media. Like that's the consume create thing.
Yeah.
There's so many consumers in the world.
Myself included.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a creator, I'm sure you can relate. You're a consumer as well.
You kind of have to.
You have to, because you have to be in touch with the frontier.
Especially for video. If you're like an artist, I think if you're a painter or a sculptor, you can never go on social media ever, probably.
Sure.
You're just like letting your mind run free.
The art world surrounding video, though, it moves so fucking fast. It moves on a day-to-day basis. Like one day it's a trend.
Cool and the next day it's not.
Dude, it's exhausting, but also like really stimulating at the same time.
And that's why it's like constantly like taking what's working and then innovating what's working, and then like you said, like the leapfrogging, the piggyback
art, leapfrog
art.
Do you think that it's going to be? Do you think there's going to be like a bubble burst, like a breaking point where people are like, okay, people's mental health is like seriously degrading. Like, you know, our employees cannot focus for more than 2 seconds.
People's mental health is degrading because they spend way too many hours on their phone. That's a personal problem.
I agree.
No one else's problem.
I agree.
But the user.
Okay, here, let me say, I'm just putting this thought together right now. But let's say you put cocaine into the pockets of the entire population.
Yeah.
Like,
Instagram.
Right.
TikTok.
But like, let's say you actually put cocaine into the pockets of, would you classify that as a personal problem? Like everyone addicted to the cocaine in their pocket. That's all
But
their
they
individual
put the
problem.
cocaine in their pocket by downloading and using the app. No one forced it.
What if the cocaine was marketed as a miracle drug?
I mean, isn't that what they did with like the painkillers? And like all these people got addicted to painkillers because they said it was super good for you. And then the Sackler family.
Sure.
Like,
I'm just trying to get to the heart of like who's to blame here. Is it the individual?
That's the thing is like I don't view the victim mindset is like if you do drugs and get addicted to drugs, is that like your fault or is that a disease? If it's your fault and not a disease, then that's one argument. If it's considered a disease, then you have an addictive personality disease.
Yes.
But like with social media, like I'm very like realist, like view it as like you could, if you're pissed off with your life and depressed and you're on social media 8 hours a day, delete the apps.
Yeah.
Fucking take a hammer and smash your phone.
Yeah.
Get a flip phone.
Yeah.
Get one of these phones that doesn't offer social media, like get your life together for a month or two. I didn't have a sip of alcohol all of 2020. I didn't drink for like a year and a half. I was just focused on building my business and like getting better as a creator.
The thing with alcohol though is that alcohol companies aren't ever increasing the potency of the alcohol or the addictiveness of the alcohol. Like,
I mean, it's just addictive naturally, but like it's like the most addicted substance in the world. Like there's the most amount of addicted users, but it's given freely.
Well, I would argue if you classify social media as a drug, that social media itself targets more sensory neurons than alcohol.
That's a great point.
Like I think
we just like too many people don't view it as a drug. They just view it as like normal. Which goes back to like no one's ever bored anymore because they go to social media to get their fix whenever they're like could potentially be bored.
Yes. I just think there's a lag. Like same with alcohol. There's a point where we didn't classify alcohol as like a super dangerous drug. I think this goes back to my original question. Do you think there's going to be a bubble burst? Like, do you think people are going to be like, wow, this is actually a fucking drug? And
I think people probably started to realize that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think with a lot of like,
but there's a difference between realizing that it's harmful and then also
here's the other
being able to
argument.
put it down.
If you are addicted to YouTube or Netflix, is Netflix a drug? Because media, could you sit and watch 8 hours of Netflix a day? If you don't have a job, you sit at home and watch 6 hours of Netflix a day. Is that the same drug as social media? Could TV be a drug?
No, because social media has the unexpected component, the slot machine effect.
Yeah, that's true. The slot machine effect is like one of the most addicting. It's like it's taken directly from
Yes.
a casino. And a casino, you'll see people like get a paycheck and go blow the whole thing on slot machines.
It's the lizard brain.
Yeah.
And this actually, it's so interesting. My guiding star, I'm not religious personally. My guiding star is biology. Like I ground all of my rationale in biology, and I can justify all of the actions that we do based on like our primitive biological workings. And social media hijacks our sensory neurons, or our sensory perceptive stimuli, and totally runs amok with it. And I think it's only increasing, and that's why I think it's dangerous. And then just to tail off that, the fucking Apple Vision Pro. Dude.
So anti putting things like in your face, like a couple inches from your eyes. That's
I get it. You can have any stance you want, but inevitably in 10, 20 years, it's going to be fucking, we're going to have shit in our fucking noses, man.
I'm not. I will move to Montana or another country and just live off the grid.
All right, let's pretend you're not going to do that.
I have zero interest in like chipping my brain or doing any type of like the phone's already the closest to being robotic for me.
Yeah.
Just because the power of a phone, if used properly, I mean, you can run a business off a phone. You can contact anyone you want in the world off a phone.
That's how I met you.
Yeah, I mean, I contacted Casey, because of Twitter. Like a video went viral, followed each other, DM'd each other, came out here, worked for him, and now have an office that he used to have with 2 other friends. It's the power of the phone and the internet and social media is what's changed my life. So for me, like I could argue that it's been the greatest drug of my life.
Same with me.
So like that's the other side, is like that's the creator aspect of using the drug at your advantage, which is no different. Like this argument is like it's like Barry Bonds ripping steroids to be the best home run hitter in the world. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, they used a drug to their positive advantage that might have been illegal in the sport and they got shunned for it. It's different in sports. That's probably a bad example, but
I think a better example would be using cocaine in like the business world to like have get a competitive advantage.
Yeah,
like,
that's like, I would say cocaine. I'd say like Adderall. Like guys that don't need Adderall, or people that don't need Adderall that take it every day are gonna have an advantage if they can be focused working on something for 14 hours a day.
Yeah, totally.
Like using any type of like ADHD drug, if it benefits you and you don't need it, might not be good for you, but you're channeling like it into potentially like whatever you're focused on, and it's helping you.
Chapter 9, Temperament and the School System.
Which I think like ADHD drugs are like one of the worst things ever for creativity. Like they wanted to put me, my parents told me when I was 18, that like the doctor said you had awful ADHD from like the ages 6 to 10. Every teacher was like, you need to medicate your son. Like they wanted you to be medicated for school. My parents never did it and they never told me. I always thought I had problems in school. Like I had a hard time like raising my hand, hard time being patient. Like I hated going to school, like hated classes. There's like very little things I liked. And it's because like my type of personality was never meant to just sit and do one thing for 7 hours a day and be told how to do it. It was to go do things. Like I come home from school every day and like I build mountain bike trails in the canyon behind my house. Like I build RC cars and like model cars and like tree houses and like run around the neighborhood with friends and mountain bike and like all these different things. Like I want to be outside, or I wanted to like physically have like full freedom to do like the creative desires or like athletic pursuits.
Yeah.
Which like sitting in a classroom for 7 hours a day, like, bro, I view it as like, it's like childhood prison. Like obviously it's great. Like there's kids in countries that would kill to have an education and have a classroom, learn from the best. But the way that America goes about it is, it's propaganda. Like it's just teaching kids propaganda in a way.
I agree. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd use the word propaganda,
No,
but I have a very similar
Who gets to
sense.
decide what like the world is taught and why?
Right.
It's not creative. Like they remove all these creative classes from school. They're like physics, science, math, history.
Yeah.
Repeat every day.
Yeah.
For 18 years.
I'm sure you're familiar with like the roots of the schooling system and how it was supposed to like channel you into being an industrial worker and all that stuff. And like
set up, they need corporate workers.
Yeah.
Even
Well, it was actually set up to be like for industrial, like during the Industrial Revolution, like we set up our schooling system so that we can just pump out like competent workers, and it hasn't changed much since then.
But though what you're saying is now it's just the corporate workforce. They're still pumping out to have. What happens if all these companies lost half their employees tomorrow because no one wanted to go to school and go to college? The whole like go to college, get into debt, and now you have $100,000, $200,000 in debt. The only way to get out of it is you have to go work for someone that can pay you enough so every month you can pay your debt off.
Yeah.
And the only people that are hiring in masses are corporate companies.
Yeah, school actually, like the school.
The cream rises to the top.
Yes, you're right. I think the school system pushes out an incompetent entrepreneur. Like the schooling system like sucks all of the entrepreneur values out of an individual.
Yeah.
And it pushes you out into the world as a worker bee.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem I would say with college is like if you are an entrepreneur or you're good at something and you've already started building into that, school could hold you back. Like you hear all these stories of kids who dropped out, famous people who dropped out a year before they were supposed to graduate, a week, 2. It's like their pursuit of their entrepreneurial spirit, what they were building, was worth dropping out.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. Like you hear these stories of people who've done it.
Absolutely.
And
totally.
sometimes like that's like the scariest thing to do in the moment will then have the best results later. Like it's just the risk versus reward.
I was just going to say that.
You have to ask yourself about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think through the years of schooling, it's conditioned out of you to take the less risky route. You know, go the path that's been traveled, you know, get a secure job, do all that stuff.
People like comfort.
People like comfort, and it's for good reason people like comfort, you know, it's for good reason our parental figures encourage stability and comfort.
Yeah.
Like it comes from a point of love for the most part.
Well, people are shaped too by their parents and environment. So like if you have very comfortable, like less risk-taking parents, or you're going to be most likely like less likely to take risks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was good. That was a great conversation.
Yeah, that was fucking fire.
You have anything else? I know Dylan just walked in, but close it.
All right, we're done in a couple 2 secs here.
Yeah. What about you? So you came to New York, and I mean, this your trip out here to make videos?
In all honesty, Zach hit me up like last month. He was kind of talking a big game. He was like, yo man, like you should come out to New York, like let's grab some footage, like we'll hang out. And then he sends me a message, he's like, yo dude, like maybe I'll even fly you out here. And I was like, oh shit, like he's legit about this. And I was like, in my head, I was like, that's a really cool offer. And like I do want to go to New York, I'm from New York. So it kind of swirled in my head for a while. Didn't take him up on him paying for my flight, but I'm out here now. Made it a point to make contact with you. I wanted to have a good conversation with you, which I'm excited that this fucking happened.
Yeah, this was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully, like I don't know if you're gonna put this on YouTube, but if not,
I will.
I'd love to put it on my YouTube.
Yeah, I will. So I'm gonna leverage like my time here in New York to launch my podcast.
Nice.
For the most part, because I want to pave my way in the like. I want to be a thought leader, an intellectual thought leader, and I think I can do that because I have like the skill set to market myself and package up.
I mean, dude, this was this back and forth conversation.
Absolutely.
Like, it was off the cuff. It was unscripted. We were talking, what were we going to talk about? We don't know. We're going to sit down and see what happens.
Dude, this is awesome. I'm so glad that
you didn't even introduce, we just went into it.
Yeah. I'm glad that you were receptive to this. And like, this is my first time kind of in the ring with like a real contender. And because this is exactly the type of podcast that I want to have. I don't want to have interview style podcasts. Like I don't like the concept of.
Bro, you just pull up with cameras, set up wherever a person is, and you go in.
Yeah, seriously, because
I don't even know how long we talked for. Dylan, what time is it?
Like 3:40.
Yeah, we've talked for an hour by accident.
Yeah. I love this. I love the banter. I don't like the interview style stuff. And when I try to explain to other people like who I'm trying to emulate, it's a mix between Rogan and Chris Williamson, if you're familiar.
Yeah, I like both of them, really.
I love both of them. Dude,
Williamson's doing this produced like this, like all around the world.
Yeah, Williamson is killing it, and he's actually like a role model for me in this space for sure. For sure.
And then Rogan's just been the GOAT. He's just like,
he's been the GOAT.
Well, he's like Rogue now. Like smoke a joint in the middle of the podcast and talk about aliens and then talk about dragons and bears or whatever.
Yeah. The thing that gets me the most excited though is like, I'm going to tail in their footsteps. But like what I have in relation to a leg up to them is like I have the capacity to like produce my own stuff.
Yeah.
And like at some point I will outsource, but I think like it is a major leg up to be able to have 10 years of video production and editing behind your back, but then also be able to converse, you know, with a high degree. So it's I'm very excited about
communication skills are like the most important
Yes.
skill in the world, and now you're packaging it with distribution, media, the ability to understand how to get clicks and views and create something that people want to watch while being a good communicator, which is like what you need. Like you can drive the ship knowing how to do all of that.
Yes.
And you get to network with cool people and shoot people.
That's one of the most potent aspects.
Who you meet.
Why I want to do this. Yeah, it's just your brain expanding, your network expanding, all of it. It's literally positive feedback loop in every aspect. You know, viewers get value, I get value, you get value.
Yeah.
That's my message.
No,
for everything.
I haven't done like a serious podcast in years, so it's like cool to stay here.
Yeah, good shit.
Good
All
to
right,
see you, Ty.
we're good, dude.
Good to be here. Hunter Weiss. Peace.
That's Hunter Weiss. Weiss Marketing, dude.
Thank you for sharing. We appreciate you being here with us, and we hope to see you in the next episode. Till next time, friend.